Ethan Carter had never thought he would stand on a planet so different from Earth. The ground beneath his feet was a soft, glowing blue, and the sky was a swirl of green and gold. He looked around in awe. Everything on Zephora seemed alive. Giant plants stretched high into the sky, their leaves shimmering like glass. Strange animals with translucent bodies moved gracefully among the trees. It was beautiful, but also slightly intimidating. Ethan adjusted his helmet and stepped carefully, mindful of every step. As a scientist and part of the first human delegation to Zephora, he had trained for months for this moment. Yet nothing in the classroom had prepared him for the feeling of standing on another world, a world that belonged to beings far more advanced than humans. The Varelian city rose before him, a mix of organic curves and shining metal towers. It looked almost like it had grown naturally from the land itself. Ethan's translator buzzed softly in his ear, interpreting the alien language into something he could understand. "Welcome, humans," a melodic voice said. Ethan turned to see the welcoming committee approaching. Their forms were humanoid but elegant, with tall, slender bodies and skin that reflected light like pearl. Their eyes were large, almond-shaped, and seemed to shine with intelligence. Ethan felt a shiver run down his spine. One figure stood slightly apart from the rest, a tall woman with a commanding presence. Her hair floated around her head in soft, luminous waves, and her eyes were the deepest shade of violet he had ever seen. She wore a crown that seemed to be part of her skin, glowing gently. Queen Lysera. Ethan bowed slightly, unsure of the proper etiquette. "I am honored to be here," he said, his voice steady despite the rapid beating of his heart. Lysera smiled, a smile that seemed to warm the air around her. "You are welcome, Ethan Carter," she said in perfect English, as if she had learned it in a lifetime of study. "We have watched your kind from afar." "You are remarkable," Ethan blinked. He had expected curiosity, perhaps even fear, but not praise. "Thank you, Your Majesty," he said, choosing his words carefully. "We come in peace and with respect for your world." Lysera's eyes studied him for a long moment. "We sense something different in humans," she said softly. "A strength that is not only in body but in mind and heart. I am curious about it," the other Varelians whispered among themselves. Ethan felt their eyes on him, some wide with astonishment, others cautiously evaluating. But it was Lysera who held his attention. There was a depth to her gaze, a mixture of curiosity and admiration that made his pulse quicken. The delegation was led into the palace, a structure that seemed alive. Walls pulsed gently, almost like a heartbeat, and corridors shifted slightly as if guiding visitors where they needed to go. Ethan marveled at the design. It was a perfect blend of art and science, a world where even architecture seemed sentient. As they walked, Lysera spoke quietly beside him. "Tell me about Earth," she said. "I want to understand your world, your people, your struggles. What drives you?" Ethan hesitated. He was used to scientific questions, not philosophical ones. "Human," he began carefully. "We are curious. We explore. We make mistakes, but we also learn. We value life, friendship, family. We fight to protect what we love, even if it seems impossible." Lysera nodded, her eyes thoughtful. "Courage and compassion. You possess qualities we admire. Tell me, have humans always been this way?" "We try," Ethan admitted, smiling slightly. "Not all humans, but many of us strive to do what is right, even when it is hard." Lysera's smile deepened. "It is rare to see such honesty and humility. I am intrigued by you, Ethan Carter." The words made his stomach flutter. He had faced countless dangerous situations on Earth, but nothing had prepared him for the feeling of being observed with such genuine fascination. Suddenly, alarms sounded. A deep hum filled the palace corridors. The Varelian guards moved swiftly, and Lysera's expression changed from curiosity to concern. Ethan followed her instinctively. "What is happening?" he asked. "An intruder," Lysera said, her voice calm but urgent. "Someone seeks to disrupt our council. Stay close to me." Before he could react, the palace doors burst open and armed beings rushed in. They were not Varelians. Their armor was dark and their movements precise like predators. Ethan realized they were mercenaries, perhaps sent by factions that opposed human-Varelian relations. Lysera raised her hand, and energy rippled through the air. The attackers were thrown back by a force field, but more were coming. Ethan's mind raced. He had trained for emergencies, but nothing like this. "Stay behind me," Lysera commanded. Ethan did as told, watching in awe as she moved with grace and power. She fought with precision, her energy blasts creating protective shields and pushing the attackers away. Ethan noticed one mercenary sneaking toward a Varelian ambassador. Without thinking, he sprinted, grabbing a nearby metal rod and swinging it with all his strength. The mercenary froze, surprised, giving Ethan just enough time to tackle him away from the ambassador. Lizara's gaze met his across the chaos. There was a flash of something, admiration, approval, maybe even relief. Ethan felt a strange warmth in his chest, a mix of fear and pride. The battle was brief but intense. The Varelian guards, aided by Ethan, managed to neutralize the intruders. The palace was safe, but the tension lingered. Lizara turned to Ethan, her expression unreadable at first. "You acted bravely," she said softly, her voice carrying over the quiet hum of the palace. "Most humans would have frozen, but you faced danger without hesitation." Ethan shook his head, embarrassed. "I just did what I thought was right." Lysera smiled, a smile that seemed to pierce through his uncertainty. "And that is exactly why I am interested in you. Humans are unpredictable yet courageous. You have qualities that few possess. I will watch you closely." The other Varelians murmured among themselves, astonished at the queen's words. It was unusual, almost unprecedented, for Lysera to single out a human in such a personal way. Ethan could feel the weight of their gaze, a mixture of admiration and disbelief. As the delegation settled into their quarters, Ethan sat quietly, reflecting on the day. He had expected scientific debates, cultural exchanges, and formal ceremonies, but he had not expected to feel the eyes of a queen upon him, or to realize that humans might truly have qualities that could impress an alien civilization. A soft chime signaled that Lysera wished to speak with him again. He followed her to a quiet garden, where bioluminescent plants cast gentle light over the paths. "You survived your first day," Lysera said, walking beside him. "Not everyone would have done so. You have courage, intelligence, and heart. These are qualities I value highly." Ethan smiled, feeling a mix of pride and humility. "I just hope I can learn from your people as much as you may be learning from mine." Lysera stopped and looked at him directly, her eyes sparkling. "Perhaps you will teach us more than we imagine. Humans have a way of surprising even the most advanced civilizations." The two walked in silence for a few moments, the alien world around them quiet but alive. Ethan realized that this was only the beginning. Sephora was a world of beauty, danger, and wonder, and he was now at the center of it all, not just as a human visitor, but as someone who had caught the attention of its most remarkable inhabitant. As night fell, the sky shimmered with colors Ethan had never seen. He felt a mix of excitement and apprehension. This world held many challenges, many mysteries, and many opportunities, and somehow he knew that his story on Sephora was only just beginning. For now he would rest, learn, and prepare. But deep inside, a spark had been lit, an awareness that humans, though small and fragile compared to the stars, could leave a mark even on worlds far beyond their own. And Queen Lysera had already noticed. The morning on Sephora was unlike any Ethan had ever seen. The sky was painted in soft pastel shades, and a gentle mist hung over the glowing flora. Birds, or creatures that resembled birds, flitted through the trees, their feathers sparkling like crystal. Ethan stepped out of his quarters and took a deep breath, feeling the crisp, fresh air fill his lungs. Despite the beauty, he could not shake the memory of the attack in the palace. He had been praised for his bravery, but in his mind, it had been instinct, nothing heroic. Yet Queen Lysera's gaze lingered on him, and he sensed that her interest was far from casual. Today he was invited to a private council meeting with the queen. The palace corridors shimmered under the morning light as Ethan walked beside a Varelian aide, who spoke softly in a musical tone. "Do not be nervous," the aide said, noticing Ethan's cautious steps. "Queen Lysera is curious about you. That is all." Ethan nodded, though he felt a swirl of nerves. Curiosity could be intimidating when it came from a queen whose wisdom and power were unmatched. He entered the council chamber, a large circular room with walls that seemed to breathe with living energy. At the center sat Queen Lysera, her violet eyes shining with interest. Her presence was commanding, yet there was a softness in the way she regarded him. "Ethan Carter," she said, her voice echoing slightly in the chamber. "Come forward." Ethan stepped carefully to the center. The other Varelian officials, seated in a circle around the room, watched him with a mixture of curiosity and skepticism. They were experts in politics, strategy, and diplomacy. He was a human, out of place perhaps, but Lysera had called him here, and that mattered. "I have observed your kind," Lysera continued. "Humans are capable of extraordinary things. You fight not only with strength, but with intellect and creativity. You adapt. You endure. And yet there is more to you that I do not understand. Tell me, what drives humans to act with such courage when the odds are against them?" Ethan swallowed, thinking carefully. "We act because we have to," he said finally. "Because we care about others. We value life, freedom, and friendship. Sometimes we fail, but the desire to protect what we love pushes us forward." Lysera tilted her head, her eyes narrowing slightly in thought. Courage born from love and duty. Fascinating. And what of fear? Does it stop you? Fear is part of life, Ethan replied, but it can also teach us. It warns us of danger, yes, but it can also give us strength. Facing fear is how humans grow. Lysera's expression softened. You speak wisely, human. Most species speak only of power or survival, but you speak of values. Perhaps this is why I am drawn to you. Ethan's heart skipped a beat. He was used to scientific admiration or respect for skill, but a queen being drawn to him? It was beyond anything he had imagined. He reminded himself to stay calm, to act as a diplomat, not as a man caught off guard by attention. The council session continued, with Lysera asking questions about Earth, humans, and their culture. Ethan answered each carefully, aware that his words were being recorded and analyzed by the Varelians. He spoke of Earth's history, its triumphs, its failures, and its endless curiosity. After some time, Lysera rose and gestured for him to follow. They walked down a corridor that seemed to twist gently, guiding them to a quiet chamber lined with large windows. Outside, the alien landscape stretched endlessly. Forests of glowing plants, rivers of shimmering liquid, and distant mountains that sparkled like gemstones. You are unlike any human I have studied, Lysera said, breaking the silence. Your courage is apparent, but it is your mind that intrigues me. You analyze, you adapt, yet you also feel deeply. Tell me, Ethan, have you ever wondered why your kind is so unpredictable? Ethan considered her question. Humans were indeed unpredictable, often acting in ways that did not make sense to other species. We are guided by emotion as well as reason, he said slowly. Sometimes that leads to mistakes. Sometimes it leads to great discoveries. We do not always follow logic, but that is part of what makes us human. Lysera's eyes glimmered with curiosity. I see. That unpredictability is a strength, then? Yes, Ethan replied. It can be dangerous, but it can also be a source of creativity and resilience. They walked in silence for a few moments, observing the alien world outside. Ethan noticed that Lysera's gaze was never idle. She watched him as though studying not just his actions but his character, his very essence. Suddenly a soft alarm sounded. The Varelian aides moved quickly and Lysera's attention shifted. A minor disturbance, she said. Nothing to worry about, but I would like you to observe if you are willing. Ethan nodded. They walked to a control room, where holographic displays showed a small group of alien wildlife acting strangely near the palace outskirts. The patterns were unusual, indicating possible environmental disruption. This is part of our world, Lysera explained. Even the smallest disturbance can cause imbalance. Humans often overlook such details. I would like to see how you analyze the situation. Ethan leaned forward, examining the holographic data. He noticed irregular energy spikes that suggested interference from outside forces. These readings, he said, pointing, are not natural. Someone or something is trying to disrupt the ecosystem. If not addressed, it could escalate. Lysera nodded approvingly. Your observation is accurate. Humans see patterns where others do not. This is why I find your species compelling. Ethan felt a mix of pride and embarrassment. He was a scientist, not a hero. Yet his insight had impressed the Queen. Over the next few hours, Ethan worked alongside Lysera and her aides to stabilize the situation. He suggested rerouting energy flows and reinforcing natural barriers, combining human logic with Varelian technology. By the time the sun, or its Xiferan equivalent, began to set, the immediate threat had been neutralized. Lysera turned to him, her expression soft but intense. You have done well, Ethan, not only in observation but in action. Your presence here is significant. Humans are small compared to our civilization, yet you prove that size does not determine influence. Ethan smiled, feeling a warm sense of accomplishment. I just try to help where I can. Lysera's gaze lingered on him a moment longer than necessary. There is something about your spirit that I cannot ignore. It is rare to see such combination of intellect, courage, and heart. Ethan felt a flutter in his chest. He was careful to maintain composure, but he could not deny the strange connection forming between them. As they walked back to the palace, the alien city illuminated by the soft glow of zifferin lights, Ethan realized that life here would never be simple. There were political challenges, cultural differences, and dangers he could not yet imagine. But there was also curiosity, his own and Lysera's. That night, as Ethan prepared for rest, he reflected on the day. Humans often underestimated themselves, believing they were insignificant in a vast universe. But here, on a world far from Earth, he saw that human qualities, courage, adaptability, and heart, could inspire even the most advanced civilizations. And Queen Lysera's attention was not ordinary. Her fascination with him was clear, and though Ethan did not fully understand it yet, he sensed that it would change everything. Outside his quarters, the alien sky shimmered with colors he could not name. The air was alive with energy and possibility. He knew that tomorrow would bring more challenges, more discoveries, and perhaps more revelations about the Queen's unusual interest in a human. Ethan fell asleep with a mix of excitement and uncertainty. Sephora was a world of wonder, danger, and intrigue, and in its heart, a queen had noticed him, something that could alter the course of both human and Varelian futures. He did not know what lay ahead, but one thing was certain: the story of humans on Sephora had only just begun. The grand hall of the Varelian palace was filled with light. Hundreds of Varelian delegates from across the planet had gathered, their eyes reflecting the sparkling walls of the chamber. Humans had also arrived, diplomats, scientists, and soldiers, carefully observing the alien ceremony. Today was meant to celebrate the growing alliance between humans and Varelians. Ethan Carter stood near the center of the hall, his heart beating faster than usual. He had attended many formal events on Earth, but nothing could have prepared him for this. The Varelian customs were elegant, precise, and full of subtle gestures that conveyed respect and status. Every eye seemed to watch him, not just the humans, but the aliens too. Queen Lysera entered the hall, and the room fell silent. She moved, with grace, her presence commanding yet gentle, as if the very air bent to her will. Ethan noticed that her gaze swept past the crowd and lingered on him. A strange warmth spread through him. He tried to remain composed, but he could feel the anticipation building in the room. "Welcome, honored guests," Lysera's voice rang out, melodic and strong. "Today, we celebrate unity, courage, and the potential for friendship between our species." The delegates nodded, murmuring their agreement. Ethan listened carefully, aware of the weight of her words. But then Lysera's eyes returned to him, and he felt a curious mixture of awe and nervousness. "The humans present among us are remarkable," Lysera continued. "They have shown courage, intelligence, and compassion. Yet one among them has particularly caught my attention." A hush fell over the hall. Ethan's stomach tightened. He knew the Queen had observed him closely, but he had not expected to be singled out in front of hundreds of dignitaries. Lysera stepped closer, her violet eyes locking on his. "Ethan Carter," she said, her voice calm but filled with emotion. "You have shown bravery and wisdom beyond what I imagined. You have proven that humans, though small in number, are not small in heart or spirit." Ethan's mind raced. He tried to respond, to bow or speak, but his voice caught in his throat. The hall was silent, waiting for the next words. Lysera took a deep breath, and then she said something that made Ethan freeze in disbelief. "I want you as my husband, human." The words echoed through the grand hall. Humans and Varelians alike froze. Ethan's jaw dropped and he blinked, thinking he had misheard. The Queen's expression was serious, sincere, and unwavering. Whispers spread through the crowd like wildfire. The humans exchanged astonished glances, some shocked, some amused, and some unsure how to react. The Varelians, usually composed and reserved, were clearly surprised. Some whispered nervously, others openly stared, amazed by the Queen's bold declaration. Ethan felt a swirl of emotions: shock, honor, confusion, and a strange sense of excitement. He had trained for diplomacy, for scientific observation, for cultural exchange, but nothing had prepared him for this. Lysra continued, her voice firm but gentle. "I have observed you closely, Ethan. Your courage during the attack, your wisdom in understanding our world, and your compassion for life. All these qualities have moved me. I see in you a partner, someone who can stand beside me, not just as a human, but as an equal." Ethan swallowed hard. He knew he had to respond carefully, but words seemed impossible. "Your Majesty," he began, his voice trembling slightly, I am honored by your words. I did not expect—" Lysra raised a hand to pause him. "Do not be afraid to speak your heart," she said. "I do not make this declaration lightly. I respect humans, and I respect you. Your response matters to me." The silence in the hall was palpable. Ethan took a deep breath. He looked around at the crowd, then back at Lysra. Her eyes, so full of sincerity, encouraged him. "I am honored, Your Majesty," he said finally. "I did not expect such a confession, but I am willing to learn, to understand, and to stand beside you if you wish it." A collective gasp filled the hall. Some humans whispered to each, other astonished that a queen would express such personal feelings for a human. Varelians murmured in disbelief, some clearly skeptical, others impressed by her courage. Lysra smiled, a radiant, triumphant smile. "Then it is decided," she said softly, yet her words carried through the hall. "Ethan Carter, you shall be my chosen partner, not by ceremony alone, but by respect, trust, and understanding." The delegates were stunned. Many of the Varelians had never witnessed their queen act so openly, so personally. It was a moment of history, and they understood that something extraordinary was happening. Even humans who were used to political speeches and formal diplomacy felt the weight of this unprecedented declaration. Ethan, still trying to process the moment, realized that the Queen's interest in him was genuine. She had seen his courage, his intelligence, and his heart, not just his human flaws but his strengths as well. In that moment, he understood that humans were capable of earning respect, admiration, and even love, from beings far more advanced than themselves. After the initial shock, the crowd slowly began to react. Some humans clapped, others laughed nervously. Varelians, though initially hesitant, began to show approval, recognizing that Lysra's choice reflected her wisdom and insight rather than whim. One of the senior Varelian ministers approached, bowing deeply. "Your Majesty, this is unexpected, but we see the truth in your words. Humans have qualities that are rare and valuable. If you choose this path, we will support your decision." Lysra nodded gracefully. "Thank you. It is not merely my choice, but a recognition of what humans can offer, not just courage, but heart and ingenuity. Ethan Carter represents the best of your species, and I trust that others will see it as well." The ceremony continued, but the focus had shifted. The humans and Varelians present were no longer just celebrating diplomacy. They were witnessing the start of something extraordinary. Ethan felt a mix of pride and nervousness, aware that his actions and character had opened a door few humans ever imagined possible. After the formal ceremony, Lysra led Ethan to a quieter balcony overlooking the glowing city. The alien lights sparkled like stars reflecting in the shimmering rivers below. "You surprised everyone," Ethan said, still trying to catch his breath. Lysra smiled softly. "And yet, I believe you will manage the attention well. Humans are capable of more than you realize. I chose you not because of status or ceremony, but because of who you are." Ethan felt a warmth he had never experienced. The Queen's words were sincere, her gaze unwavering. "I will do my best to live up to your trust," he said quietly. Lysra reached out, a delicate gesture that was both formal and personal. That is all I ask. Together, we will show that humans are not to be underestimated, and that friendship and unity can flourish across worlds. For the first time, Ethan felt that humans could truly matter on a galactic scale. The Queen's confidence in him was not just an honor, it was a challenge, a responsibility, and an opportunity. As the night deepened, the palace around them glowed softly. Ethan and Lysra stood together, overlooking a world filled with potential and mystery. The human delegation whispered among themselves, amazed at what had occurred. Varelians, too, had seen their queen act boldly, breaking tradition and showing that respect and admiration could cross species barriers. In that moment, Ethan understood something profound. Humans were small in the universe, but not weak. Courage, compassion, and intelligence could make them remarkable, even to civilizations far older and more advanced than their own. And one of the most powerful beings in the galaxy had noticed him. The Queen's confession was not just a personal declaration, it was a signal to both humans and Varelians. It was a reminder that the qualities that made humans special, resilience, ingenuity, and heart, could earn respect, trust, and even love. As Ethan left the balcony, he knew the days ahead would be filled with challenges. Not everyone would accept this union, and not every mission would be easy. Yet for the first time, he felt a true sense of purpose. Humans had a place in the stars, and perhaps even a chance to shape the future alongside beings like Queen Lysra. The grand hall, now quiet, still held the echoes of her words. Ethan Carter, the human who had been noticed, admired, and chosen, could hardly believe how far he had come. And as he returned to his quarters, he realized that this was only the beginning. Tomorrow would bring new tests, new discoveries, and new opportunities to prove that humans were not just observers in the galaxy. They could be partners, allies, and even symbols of hope for interstellar unity. But for now, he allowed himself a moment of quiet pride. He had faced the extraordinary and he had survived, not just with courage, but with heart. And Queen Lysra had chosen him. The palace of Zephora had never been as busy as it was now. The announcement of Queen Lysra's choice of Ethan Carter had sent waves of surprise through both the Varelian court and the human delegation. Some whispered in admiration, some in disbelief, and a few openly questioned the wisdom of the union. But Lysra remained composed, her eyes always finding Ethan's in every gathering. Ethan, meanwhile, felt the weight of attention pressing on him. Everywhere he went, beings watched him, some with curiosity, some with doubt. Though proud of the Queen's words, he could not ignore the skepticism that surrounded them. The day began with a council meeting in the palace's circular chamber. Varelian ministers and advisors filled the room, their expressions a mix of respect and concern. The humans sat in a designated area, observing quietly. Lysra addressed the council first. "Our decision is final," she said. "Ethan Carter has proven himself through courage, intelligence, and respect. Yet there are those who question his role among us. Today we will begin a series of trials to show that unity between our species is not only possible, but beneficial." A murmur ran through the hall. The council's conservative factions were clearly unhappy, but Lysra's voice was firm, leaving no room for argument. Ethan stepped forward cautiously. "I am ready," he said. "If there are challenges I must face, I will meet them." Lysra smiled, a mixture of pride and relief on her face. "Good. Then let us begin." The first trial was a test of intellect and strategy. Ethan and a team of Varelian scholars were presented with a complex puzzle, a simulated environmental crisis that threatened a region of Zephora. The task required careful observation, problem-solving, and quick decision-making. Ethan studied the simulation carefully. He noticed subtle patterns that the Varelian team initially overlooked. With his guidance, they rerouted energy flows, reinforced protective barriers, and stabilized the environment. Within hours, the crisis was resolved. The council observed in silence. When the final solution was confirmed, Lysra's eyes sparkled with approval. "You see," she said, turning to the council, "humans bring insights that are different but valuable. Ethan Carter's mind complements our own." Some ministers nodded reluctantly. Others whispered that the human success was impressive, though they were still hesitant to accept the Queen's personal choice. The next trial tested courage and adaptability. Ethan and Lysera were assigned to a mission in the outer regions of Zephora, where volatile energy storms frequently occurred. The task was to recover data from an abandoned research station while navigating dangerous terrain. Ethan and Lysera prepared carefully, reviewing maps and safety protocols. As they traveled, Lysera observed Ethan's approach to problem-solving. He remained calm under pressure, analyzing each challenge before acting. When a sudden storm struck, Ethan quickly calculated a safe path through the swirling energy currents. Lysera followed, trusting his judgment completely. At one point, a rock slide blocked their path. While some Varelians might have waited for help, Ethan climbed carefully, testing the stones before advancing. Lysera followed his lead, impressed by his bravery and ingenuity. Together they reached the station, recovered the data, and returned safely. Back at the palace, the council erupted into applause. Even the most skeptical ministers had to acknowledge Ethan's courage and practical thinking. Lysera's confidence in him grew stronger. But the challenges were not only physical or intellectual. Political tensions arose as news of their partnership spread. Conservative factions within the Varelian court attempted subtle sabotage, rumors, delays in assignments, and questioning of human actions. Ethan quickly learned that diplomacy and patience were as important as bravery. One evening, a minor crisis occurred when a Varelian diplomat questioned Ethan's knowledge of court protocol. Ethan remained calm, listening carefully, then responded with respect and insight. He explained his reasoning, demonstrating understanding of Varelian culture while maintaining human perspective. The diplomat, impressed by his tact, retracted the criticism. Lysera observed these interactions closely. She saw that Ethan was not only brave and intelligent, but adaptable and patient. "You handle challenges well," she said during a quiet walk in the palace gardens. "You understand not just action, but the hearts of those around you. That is rare, even among my people." Ethan smiled softly. "I have to learn. There is so much I do not yet understand." "And yet, you learn quickly," Lysera replied. "That is why I trust you. Your presence strengthens not only our bond, but the bond between our worlds." Their partnership grew stronger with each trial. Ethan's calm reasoning and human intuition complemented Lysera's wisdom and power. Together they navigated missions, solved complex problems, and addressed unexpected dangers. Their teamwork became a symbol, demonstrating that humans and Varelians could work together in harmony. However, challenges were never far away. A faction of Varelian nobles plotted against the Union, attempting to undermine Ethan's credibility. They staged minor incidents, hoping he would fail or make mistakes. Yet Ethan's courage and careful thinking prevented disaster each time. One incident involved a malfunction in a critical energy conduit supplying the palace. Conservative ministers claimed it was Ethan's oversight. But Ethan analyzed the system quickly, discovered a hidden flaw, and repaired it before any harm occurred. The nobles were left embarrassed, while Lysera's admiration grew. "You see, Ethan," she said later, "not all challenges come from the environment or missions. Some are from those who fear change. You face them with patience and wisdom. That is why you are exceptional." Ethan felt both pride and humility. He was learning that courage was not only about facing danger, it was about standing firm in the face of doubt, criticism, and opposition. As weeks passed, the bond between Ethan and Lysera became evident to all. They communicated seamlessly, often anticipating each other's thoughts and actions. Their partnership inspired others to collaborate, breaking down prejudices and fostering mutual respect between humans and Varelians. One night, as they studied star maps in the observatory, Ethan noticed Lysera's gaze lingering on him. "What is it?" he asked. "I am thinking," she said softly, "about how humans, despite your fragility, have qualities that even advanced civilizations like mine often overlook. Courage, empathy, creativity. These are gifts that cannot be taught. They must be lived." Ethan felt a surge of admiration and gratitude. I hope I can continue to live up to your trust, he said quietly. You already do, Lysera replied, her eyes shining. And together, we will face what comes next. But even as their relationship strengthened, challenges continued. Some factions within the court remained skeptical, refusing to fully support the human presence. Ethan realized that winning hearts and minds would take time, effort, and continued demonstration of human capability. A new mission arose when an energy anomaly appeared near the outer forests. Strange creatures had begun behaving aggressively, endangering both human and Varelian teams sent to study the area. Ethan and Lysera were tasked with resolving the situation. The journey was perilous. Lightning-like energy streaks cut through the alien sky, and shifting terrain tested their skills. Ethan's calm thinking and Lysera's command of energy forces allowed them to navigate the dangers. They observed the creatures, noting that the anomaly affected their behavior. Using a combination of Varelian technology and human ingenuity, they stabilized the environment and restored balance. Upon their return, the court acknowledged their success. Even the most vocal critics had to admit that humans, under Ethan's guidance, could contribute meaningfully to Varelian society. Lysera approached him privately afterward. You see, Ethan, she said, the trials are not just about proving yourself. They are about showing that humans and Varelians can trust one another, and you have done so every time. Ethan nodded. I have learned a lot, not just about your people, but about myself. You have shown courage, wisdom, and patience, Lysera said, her tone softening. These qualities are rare, and they will guide us through future challenges. Together, we are stronger than either of us alone. Ethan smiled, realizing that their bond was no longer just personal, it was symbolic. Humans could matter on a galactic stage. Their actions, courage, and intellect could influence events far beyond Earth. And with Lysera by his side, he felt ready for whatever the universe might throw at them. As the night settled over Zephora, Ethan looked out at the glowing horizon. The planet was beautiful, dangerous, and full of mystery, and within its heart, he had found a queen who saw him not just as a human, but as a partner, a symbol, and a friend. The challenges were not over. Court politics, skepticism, and danger remained. But Ethan knew one thing for certain. Humans could rise to meet the extraordinary. With courage, intelligence, and heart, they could leave a mark even on worlds far beyond their own. And together, he and Lysera were ready to face whatever came next. The palace of Zephora sparkled under the light of 3 moons, each casting a gentle glow across the elegant towers. The day of the grand ceremony had finally arrived. Delegates from across the planet, as well as human representatives, gathered in the central plaza. The occasion was historic. It was not only a celebration of the growing alliance between humans and Varelians, but also a public acknowledgement of the bond between Queen Lysera and Ethan Carter. Ethan stood beside the queen, adjusting his ceremonial attire. The humans around him whispered, some in awe, others unsure how such a union could be accepted. Yet Ethan felt calm. He had faced trials of courage, intellect, and diplomacy. He had survived danger, political tension, and alien skepticism. He knew that today would be about more than ceremony. It would be about recognition, acceptance, and unity. Lysera approached the podium at the center of the plaza, her presence commanding yet serene. Her violet eyes scanned the crowd, and when they met Ethan's, a small smile passed between them. In that instant, the crowd seemed to notice something different. The bond between them, evident even to those who had doubted it. Honored guests, humans and Varelians alike, Lysera's voice rang clear, melodic, and strong. Today we celebrate not only diplomacy and understanding, but also the courage and integrity that bring our worlds together. Humans have shown that they possess qualities that deserve respect: courage, intelligence, and heart. The crowd murmured, some nodding, others still in disbelief. Ethan looked at the queen, waiting, wondering what she would say next. Lysera paused, then spoke the words that had been whispered in private but had never been declared publicly. And among humans, one stands out, not by rank or strength alone, but by character. Ethan Carter has proven that humans can be brave, wise, and compassionate. Therefore, I declare that he shall be my chosen partner, my equal, and my companion in unity. Gasps filled the plaza. Humans stared, mouths open, unable to believe that a queen had chosen a human as her partner. Virelians froze, some in shock, others in awe. Delegates whispered among themselves, some questioning tradition, others quietly impressed by her courage and vision. Ethan felt his heart race. He had faced danger, intrigue, and doubt, but nothing compared to the weight and honor of this moment. He bowed respectfully. "Your Majesty," he said, his voice steady despite the whirlwind of emotions inside him. "I am honored. I will do my utmost to deserve your trust and to serve as a worthy companion." Lysera's smile deepened, her eyes shining with pride. "I know you will, Ethan Carter. Together we represent the strength of collaboration between our species. Today is not about one person. It is about the future we build together." The crowd gradually erupted into applause. Some humans cheered, proud that one of their own had been recognized in such an extraordinary way. Virelians, initially hesitant, joined in, acknowledging that courage, wisdom, and heart were qualities that transcended species. Following the formal announcement, the celebration began. Holographic displays illuminated the plaza, showing scenes of human and Virelian cooperation, joint research, environmental restoration, and diplomatic missions. Music, both human and Virelian, filled the air, blending in harmony. For the first time, many delegates saw the beauty of unity between worlds and they began to embrace it. Ethan walked alongside Lysera, observing the reactions of those around them. Children, both human and Virelian, laughed together, playing games that combined elements from both cultures. Scientists exchanged knowledge eagerly, inspired by the possibility of collaboration. Even the conservative factions of the Virelian court began to soften, realizing that humans brought qualities that complemented their civilization. Lysera turned to Ethan during a quieter moment. "Do you see it?" she asked. "The way our worlds are beginning to understand one another?" Ethan nodded, a smile spreading across his face. "Yes, it's incredible. I never imagined humans could make such an impact, not just with technology or diplomacy, but by showing courage and heart." "You have shown them," Lysera said softly. "You have reminded everyone that even the smallest among us can achieve greatness through integrity and courage." The evening progressed with a series of demonstrations highlighting human ingenuity and Virelian mastery of energy and technology. Ethan and Lysera presented together, showing how human insight complemented Virelian methods. A task that once seemed impossible, stabilizing a volatile energy source, was performed flawlessly under their joint guidance. Delegates watched in amazement as humans and Virelians worked seamlessly together, solving problems that had once seemed insurmountable. Later, as the celebration moved indoors, a more personal moment occurred. Lysera led Ethan to a quiet chamber overlooking the palace gardens. The soft glow of bioluminescent plants lit the room. "You have done more than I ever expected," she said, her voice gentle. "Through courage, intelligence, and patience, you have earned respect, trust, and admiration. Not only mine, but that of our people." Ethan looked at her, feeling a mixture of pride and humility. "I could not have done it alone," he said. "Your guidance, your trust, and your willingness to see potential in humans, that made all the difference," Lysera smiled. "And together, we have shown that humans are not merely visitors or observers in the galaxy. You have proven that our worlds can learn from each other, grow together, and achieve greatness side by side." Ethan felt a warm sense of fulfillment. Humans had always been underestimated, often seen as fragile or insignificant in the vast universe. But here on Zyphora, with a queen who recognized his worth, he realized that humans could leave a mark beyond Earth. Courage, creativity, and compassion were qualities that mattered, even to civilizations far more advanced. The ceremony concluded with the official acknowledgement of Ethan as Lysera's chosen partner. Delegates from both species celebrated openly, finally understanding that this union represented more than personal choice. It symbolized the unity, respect, and collaboration between humans and Virelians. In the following days, life on Zyphora began to shift. Humans were no longer mere observers. They became active participants in research, diplomacy, and cultural exchange. Ethan and Lysera continued to work closely, solving problems, exploring new territories, and addressing challenges together. Their partnership became a model for others, demonstrating the potential for collaboration across species. One afternoon, while examining a newly discovered ecosystem at the edge of Zephora's forests, Ethan paused to observe the glowing flora. Lysera joined him, her presence calm and reassuring. "Do you ever think about how far humans have come?" Ethan asked. "All the time," Lysera replied. "Your species is unpredictable, but in the best way. You have courage, curiosity, and a heart that inspires. That is why you are here, why you have been recognized, and why you matter." Ethan smiled, feeling a deep sense of connection, not just to Lysera but to his species as a whole. Humans had always faced challenges, often underestimated and doubted. Yet here, on a distant world, their qualities were being acknowledged and celebrated. "The future feels possible," Ethan said softly. Lysera nodded. "Yes. Together, humans and Virelians can achieve things neither could alone. And this is just the beginning." As the sun set over the alien horizon, casting a spectrum of colors across the glowing landscape, Ethan felt a profound sense of purpose. Humans had a place in the stars, and they could prove their worth not by conquest but by courage, intelligence, and heart. And Queen Lysera had chosen him not for his power, not for his position, but for his character. The final moments of the day were spent in quiet reflection. Delegates returned to their homes, inspired by what they had witnessed. Humans and Virelians alike understood that the union of Ethan and Lysera symbolized more than romance. It represented hope, trust, and the extraordinary potential that arose when two worlds embraced one another. Ethan and Lysera stood together on a balcony, overlooking the palace and the glowing forests beyond. The stars above seemed to shine brighter, reflecting the possibilities that lay ahead. "Do you think our worlds are ready for what comes next?" Ethan asked. Lysera's eyes met his, full of confidence and warmth. "They will be," she said. "Humans have proven themselves, and with courage, heart, and wisdom, we will continue to grow together." Ethan took a deep breath, feeling the weight of the journey so far. He had faced danger, intrigue, and doubt. He had proven that humans could be more than observers. They could be partners, allies, and symbols of hope in the galaxy. And standing beside him was the Queen who had recognized his worth, who had chosen him for who he was, and who believed in the potential of both their species. As night settled over Zephora, the lights of the palace glimmered like stars on the ground. The celebration, the trials, and the challenges had led to this moment of unity. Humans and Virelians, once distant and cautious, now stood together in respect, admiration, and hope. Ethan felt a quiet pride, knowing that the story of humans on Zephora was only just beginning. The universe was vast, full of unknown worlds, challenges, and opportunities. But he knew that with courage, intelligence, and heart, humans could face anything. And together, he and Queen Lysera would lead the way. The galaxy had taken notice,